Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Skip Rutherford. I'm Dean of the University of Arkansas Clinton School of Public Service. And welcome tonight. And I want to say happy holidays to everyone. May I please ask that you silence your cell phone because we're live streaming this event. And you greeted him as he walked in. We have a lot of elected officials here. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to introduce them. But I do want to say that there was a historic election in Little Rock a few weeks ago. Please join me in greeting the mayor-elect of the city of Little Rock, the Honorable Frank Scott. We're pleased to partner with the Clinton Foundation with a great program to close out the fall semester. I want to thank Ben Thielemeyer, Annalee Pittman, Lena Moore with the Clinton Foundation. I want to thank Nikolai DePippa and Patrick Newton with the Clinton School. And a special thanks to the volunteers who are helping tonight. We have, as Stephanie would say, we are blessed with a number of volunteers who help here at the library and who help at the school. So would you join me in giving a round of applause to these volunteers? Joining us tonight are four of the most influential African-American women in our country. Tonight for a conversation for colored girls who have considered politics. Moderated by Stephanie Street, the Executive Director of the Clinton Foundation. Please welcome Donna Brazile, Yolanda Caraway, Leah Daughtry, and Minyon Moore.
All right, let's get this party started. You guys are in for a special treat tonight. So I am just so thrilled to welcome my four fabulous friends to the Clinton Center and appreciate you all making the trip. I know you've had a crazy week all over the country on different book stops and been watching your Twitter feed and your social media and seeing all the fabulous photos, but this is going to be the best crowd you've spoken to yet. Am I correct here?
Of course. Yeah, thank you.
Well, these women need no introduction, but I'm going to go ahead and give them a brief one just to put everything here in context. I am so thrilled to welcome Donna Brazile, a veteran. Yes, give her a big old round of applause.
Thank you.
A veteran Democratic political strategist. She is an adjunct professor at Georgetown. She's got some papers to grade, so I think she's leaving early in the morning. She is an author, a television political commentator, and the former interim chair of the Democratic Party. She is a rock star. Donna, welcome to Little Rock again.
It's good to be back. Thank you.
All right. I'm not going to do this. I'm doing this in alphabetical order, not in seating order. I'm now introducing Yolanda Caraway, another amazing, fabulous lady. She is the founder of the Caraway Group, Inc., a nationally recognized public relations and public affairs agency. She has played a major, and let me say, major role in shaping the goals and objectives of the National Democratic Party for decades. Please help me welcome Yolanda Caraway. Now, this lovely lady here to my right, she always has the most fabulous shoes. What are you wearing tonight, honey? Those are so incredible. This is the Reverend Leah Daughtry. Leah is a nationally recognized preacher, speaker, organizer, leader, strategist, and the CEO of the 2008 and the 2016 Democratic National Conventions. Welcome, the Reverend Leah Daughtry. Now, this next lady here in the lovely holiday green jacket here We go way back. She is a dear, dear friend to me and to my husband. She was actually in my wedding about 18 and a half years ago. Minyon Moore. Minyon is a partner at the Dewey Square Group. She was formerly the CEO of the Democratic National Committee. She served in the Clinton administration in 2 extremely prominent positions in the White House. She was an assistant to the president and the director of the White House Office of Public Liaison. And if that wasn't enough, she then became the director of the White House Office of Political Affairs. And let me tell you, folks, that's a pretty scary position to be in the White House. And she did it with grace and aplomb, and she is just an incredible lady. So please help me welcome my dear friend, Minyon Moore. I'm going to do my very best to try to moderate this group here. I don't know. You'll let me know, Skip, how I'm doing. You can give me the hook if I don't do my job. But I'm going to start out, going to ask a couple of questions, and if we have time, we'll leave some time at the end for a few questions. But I'd like to know, can you tell us, why did you call this book Colored Girls, or why do you call yourselves the Colored Girls? I'm a Caucasian lady here in the South sitting up here on this stage, and it's an interest, like the Colored Girls. Tell us about that title and what that means and why you decided to call yourselves that and why that's sort of part of the title of this book.
Well, first of all, being a Southern colored girl,
Yes. Yes.
you are colored.
Yes. I hope so.
You may be
Moderated.
Caucasian on paper, but you are colored.
Thank you for that honor.
I have seen all of your colors. You wear them well.
Thank you.
And because you wear them well, we are here to tell our story about why we are the colored girls and proud of it. Once upon a time, as Southern women and many others, we were called colored. And 30 years ago, Minyon and I were working in a Dukakis campaign. That was pre-Clinton, y'all. And we had a moment, and you know, during campaigns you have moments. But this moment was one that really made us think about who we were at the time. And when the campaign decided to put the senior level people on the 9th floor and leave everyone else behind, although we had the title that would allow us to be senior level people. After all, when you become deputy campaign manager for field operation or political operation, you're a member of the senior level team. Because something happened to the quote unquote, the director, you're in charge. And Minyon and I didn't care about titles because we knew we were in charge. And so that day when they decided to move the campaign to the next level, and we felt that certain people were being excluded in terms of their allocation of space, we went up during that special hour of each day. Some of y'all might call it cocktail hour. We call it the gathering time. And we went up to the 9th floor. We found a spacious room, and we rearranged the furniture. Actually, Minyon.
It really wasn't the spacious room. It was the chairs room.
It was the chair's office. It was spacious.
Yeah.
And it looked like it would hold a bunch of people.
It was big. Yeah, right. We needed it.
And so we decided to move the desk and chairs and make it comfortable, and we put a sign, for colored girls, we shall not be moved. And we named every woman that we could come up with, that women that have blazed trails, women that have made a way out of no way, and we put their names under the bottom. And that room served as a gathering point for women of all colors, all backgrounds, all creeds. And it became the room that we use to empower other people. So we're proud to be colored girls. And Stephanie, you're one of us. So you bet not. You can get a divorce from your husband. But you can't divorce us because you go back with us too.
I do.
Some of us, we were there. I didn't go to the wedding, but I might have made the engagement happen. I don't know what part I played in that.
Pretty good part.
Thank you.
Part. All right, ladies. Clearly, you all have a bond. And friendship is really one of the key themes that runs throughout this book. Can you each talk about how this friendship that you all have with one another has made you stronger individually, but also has been a vital component of your collective successes. Talk a little bit about your friendship and how that sustained you through the last couple of decades. Whoever.
Sure, I'll start. How y'all doing? I'm from the Talkback Church, so it's okay to. I'm the oldest of 4 children, and so I'm naturally bossy and naturally in charge of everything. Yes, we do. So in this group, I'm the youngest. Yes, and for me, when we all gelled as a friend, it meant that when I'm at home, I'm in charge, I make the decisions, I solve everybody else's problems, I fix it, I solve it, I make it go away. With these folks, I don't have to do any of that. And I can just be Leah and just be who I want. And some days I am bossy, and I'm in charge. But other than that, they're like my big sisters that I never had growing up, and so they make my life fuller and richer. And I got somebody to complain to. I got somebody to run to when I'm having an issue, when there's trouble. We are all on speed dial, and that's really been not just part. We started as work friends, and we worked on projects together. And over the years, over these 30 years, we've become personal friends, the kind that show up at your house and rearrange your furniture, which we did at Donna's house because the feng shui was off.
She had the Christmas tree in the wrong place.
The Christmas tree was in the wrong place, so we had to move the tree. And then once we moved the tree, then the chair was wrong, and then so we just rearranged her whole living room.
And now she's gone out and got 2 little bitty small trees.
Small trees.
I don't want them back at my house. So I got little Charlie Brown trees now.
So for me, that's what, and they are, just part of the core of my life. I'm a pastor's kid, and when you grow up as a pastor's kid, it's hard to have friends because people are always coming and going in church, and you're not exactly sure who you can trust for long-term relationships. So these women have proven to me that it is possible to have good friends that you can trust and that will walk with you through fire, through the good times, through the bad times, and that there are people who can be constant in your life. And so that's why I love them. And that's why I'm friends with them, even on the tough days when we're getting on each other's nerves.
And that happens a lot. So, no, I'm kidding. No, it really doesn't. So I'm going to go back to, Donna and I were the first ones to meet. I was working for then Congresswoman Barbara Mikulski, who was became a senator and retired recently. And I was working in a Washington office. And I had a job I was the legislative correspondent, which is a person that answers all the constituent mail. So this was probably the lowest job on the totem pole, frankly. And one day, I was sitting in my little cubicle. I didn't have anything like an office. It was a really little cubicle. And someone came in and said, there's a young lady out here that would like to talk to somebody about, and she may have said the Martin Luther King holiday, I'm not sure, but I couldn't figure out why they were coming to ask me to meet with her, because I was like, nobody. And so I said, okay, but then when I saw her, I knew why. But I was so happy. Really, I was so happy to see someone else that looked like me. This is like the early 80s, like 1981. And there were so few of us there then. And Donna was like, I'm like 10 years older than Donna. But we just kind of bonded at that point. I mean, I went out and met with her in the lobby, and then I was so happy to be able to report in the staff meeting that I had a meeting with this woman, and they want the congresswoman to sign on to the Martin Luther King holiday bill. And she did, and it worked out. And it was amazing. We've been friends ever since. Now, this one.
That would have been Minyon.
That would have been Minyon. This one I met in probably around 85, 86 when I went to work for Reverend Jackson. She was working in the Chicago office, and I came on, I think originally as political director or something, for the Rainbow Coalition. And she's an amazing young woman. She was an amazing young woman. She's an amazing old woman. She's got the greatest heart.
Eventually, somebody's going to get the mic taken from them. It's a little early in this program for this, though.
Well, I'm the oldest one, so. But anyway, she is just has always been such an amazing friend. I mean, I've never met anyone like Minyon, who has the biggest heart and will always reach out. And as Leah says, she'll take the bird, meet with the...
Every bird with a broken wing
Every
finds
bird,
its way to Minyon.
Thank you. And she takes care of every single one of them. Now, this one over here, when Ron Brown became chair, I was running the site selection process for the 1992 convention. I had to hire someone to help me. And she was recommended by several people. I knew she was Herb Daughtry's daughter, but I didn't know her. But because she was Herb Daughtry's daughter, she'd get the job unless she grew 2 heads or something in front of me. But she came in and she was so impressive and she tried so hard to impress me, and I could tell that she was nervous. But I hired her on the spot, loved her, have loved her ever since, and have watched her grow. And I remember she said, and which is true, that at that time I saw something in her that she didn't see in herself. And I've always pushed her to be bigger and better.
Well, I think for me, my relationship with them is probably different on every level. And I'm probably more of the connective tissue because, we have our ups, we have our downs, and I try to stay somewhere in the middle so that we can always have an open line when we're at the downs. But I think one of the things that I've learned about having them in my life is the same as when I had Stephanie in my life at the White House. It's always a go-to person. It's always a person that you can trust unconditionally. It doesn't matter who's up, who's down, who's in, who's out, who has the title at the time. Donna has served as my intern. Yolanda has served as Leah's delegate tracker or a speaker tracker. So we've always, tried to be there for each other. And I think in politics in particular, what we found was that, first of all, it was very few of us. So we had no choice but to be together. And secondly, it was very few women playing at our level, as Janice and Stephanie and many of you know. So when you find somebody with a value system that believes that your job is as important as their job, and they might not have the spotlight on them, and they believe that protecting you and supporting you is the best thing that they could do at that moment, those are the friends you cling to. And we will tell you on any given day, if you do something wrong, you'll get dropped from an email. Because we talk to each other all the time, but you haul off and say something stupid, you will get dropped from that email for about 3 or 4 weeks, and then you find your way on back in because you ain't heard from nobody. And you be wondering, what's going on? But the real point is, I don't think there's ever been a crisis in our friendship that has not brought us back together. And I adore them, I worship them, and I'm glad that they're in my life.
One of the things you'll read about in the book is how we have been involved in so many important endeavors in our nation's history. I'm looking at Lottie, and now I'm looking at Frank, and what a great honor it is to know the first black female mayor of this great city, and now you, sir. So I just want to let you know it's just feel good to be home in Little Rock, and though I hail from New Orleans, I still love you. I'll tell you this story. Forgive us, I know. After Hurricane Katrina made landfall, and I had no idea where my family was. I knew some had been able to leave. I knew some could afford to get away, but I knew many others would be stuck and left behind. When I called Minyon and gave her my update, and I was clearly on the verge of tears because you didn't know who made it and who didn't make it. Within an hour, Bill Clinton called me. And I said to him exactly what was on my mind. I said, I'm scared. I don't think they made it. And he said, I'm going to be with them. I'm going to find them. I'm going to help you. He called me back in 3 days, and by then I had discovered that most of my siblings made it. I had an uncle that had made it to Roswell, Georgia, 94 years old, World War II veteran, evacuated off his roof, and the moment he got to Atlanta and Roswell, he had a heart attack, and the president said, don't worry. We got him his body back to Louisiana on Delta. I say all of this because when Bill Clinton called me a few days later, Katrina happened on the 29th. And I knew I could talk to Bill Clinton like a brother because everybody knew he was the first black president. And I didn't cut him no slack. This was before Obama. I said, Mr. President, now I'm going to tell you the truth because you know our people. I said, they don't need Band-Aids. Ain't nothing on their bodies broken, but they need water. They need places to stay. They need warm places. Mr. President, I also need you to go on TV and tell them that their Social Security checks are okay. They didn't arrive at the house. Everybody know the houses are not, you know. Everything I told Bill Clinton, it was relatable. I've always found that when you look for people, whether they're your friends or people you vote for, you want them to be relatable. You want to keep that human touch. And when Bill Clinton and George Herbert Walker Bush started raising money for Katrina funds, the president focused on two areas that made a huge difference: healthcare and education. And today, Louisiana have one of the best trauma centers ever in our history. And we also have our VA hospitals back, and all our historical black colleges and universities are functioning. So this is what friendship is really about. It's not the downs that we experience, because we all experience downs. It's not the lows and the highs, because we all go through that. But it's when you go through a storm, and you don't know if you're going to see the other side. But knowing that there are people out there who care and will put you in touch with the right people, that's what our friendship is all about.
Thank you. So, as you just stated, Donna, you all have been eyewitnesses to history, some of the most historic moments in our nation's history over the past couple of decades. You've played, some behind-the-scenes roles a lot of the time, not out front, but behind the scenes. I'd like to hear a little bit about, you all could have written this book many years ago. You all are so accomplished and have seen so much. Why now? Why 2018? Minyon, why now, or did you guys decide to do this at this moment?
Well, it actually didn't start as a book, believe it or not. We have a friend who is a Hollywood producer, and she's a great friend of ours, and she'd come to Washington, and she'd have dinner with us, and one day she came, and she says, you know what, I think you guys have a story here. Your friendship is so rich, people don't know that you're at this level in politics. I'd love to do a treatment around it, and that's basically, a mini script to sell to Hollywood. So we were like, rolling our eyes, because anybody talking about Hollywood was like, whatever. And so she decided to go ahead and do the little treatment, but she took it to Oprah first, and then Oprah liked it.
Just Oprah.
Just Oprah,
No
whatever. Yeah, we were still whatever. And so Oprah used her persuasion with HBO because she had a first look deal, and so HBO wanted to meet us. So we all decided, okay, we've been together for a while. Well, let's go on out to Hollywood and have a good time. And we'll eat their food. Free trip. Nice hotel. Because, they trying to woo us.
Nice shopping.
We wasn't even
Room
thinking
service.
about. What'd you say?
Room service.
Room service. We said we'll just, listen, they want to woo us, let's go on out there. So we got out there. And very similar to how this might digress, they're asking us a series of questions, and we're talking to each other and whatever. And so then, right through the middle of the meeting, the president says, "We want this." And we stopped and looked at each other, and we said, what? She says, "Do you guys have 30 years worth of stories?" 5 years? Well, we had 30. That's what, yeah. And so anyway, they bought it. So we came out, did the due diligence. We got us a lawyer, and we started going through the process. And then we started getting the script. Well, you heard that Leah was a pastor, right? Leah, would you like to describe your character?
Yeah. So my character was a black woman, Pentecostal pastor, who was the chief of staff of the DNC, which was all me. But the character in the script had me doing things that would have me in front of the mother's board at church. I was like, they getting ready to get me put out my pulpit because I was having an affair with the deacon. I had some kids of unknown origin. I had people showing up on my doorstep late at night. I was like, this can't work. And when I called to complain, they said, well, it's not you, it's your likeness. I'm like, but I'm not going to be able to explain to the elders that this is not me when you have all the characteristics of me. This can't work.
So I don't even remember the woman's name. I was dating a white New York Times reporter. I was working for the White House as the political director. Wow. But we were trading secrets. I'm like, well, they might do that today. but in our administration, we didn't do that.
No,
I'm like,
we did not.
What if people think I'm really doing that? But anyway, so fast forward, we let our friend of ours read the script, and he said to us, listen, you guys have so much history, and it would be a shame that this is the way you introduce yourselves. So I would strongly suggest that you really think about it, because you're not only representing who you have represented in life, but you're also representing yourselves. So we decided to pull out and pull back. And so thus the book.
You know, you all are in such incredible positions. You've made, names for yourself. You've been at the table with some of the highest level of people in our country, all over the world. I really loved hearing in the book more about mentorship and how important it was, not just for your formation, but how you then pay it forward. I see Lottie Shackelford here in the front row, and I know Lottie has been a mentor to so many. And early in the DNC, she's been a mentor to many young women from across our state and, frankly, across the country. Another mentor that I know the five of us share in common is the incredible Alexis Herman. I'd love to hear from you all about some of your mentors and maybe some interesting tidbits. Don't give away too much because we want to sell those books, but talk a little bit about mentors, your mentors, but how do you now mentor people to sort of pay it forward, if you will? Yo, why don't you go first?
I've had many mentors in my life, but I think my first mentor at the national level was Ann Lewis, and I think a lot of you in here probably know her. She hired me to work for Barbara Mikulski, and then when she left to go to the DNC, she took me with her. And she kind of gave me, I was like her administrative assistant, and I just kind of ran things. But she gave me opportunities to do things. We had a training academy. DNC, I think they had this once a long time ago, but we decided we were going to start this training academy. We're going to take it around the country and train people to run for office and train people to be campaign managers, and it was called the Democratic National Training Academy. Probably one of my favorite jobs. I loved it because it was totally my responsibility. I had 2 interns, and we did this magnificent stuff around the country. So we started probably in the early 80s, and we did, I think, maybe 2 or 3, and I was more like the staff person on it. And then when we got to the 4th one, I went into her office and I said, Ann, I can do this. You don't need to pay all these consultants all this money. I can do this. And she said, okay, you do it. So this was like the last one of the year, and it was I think it was in DC, and it turned out to be the biggest, baddest event that they ever had. More people, we couldn't even hold all the people. And then after the first of the year, we were in a staff meeting, and Ann announced Yolanda Caraway is now going to, and I didn't even know it, going to be Director of Education and Training, and we're taking this around the country. So she was like my first mentor, and when I tell people, and I mentor people all the time, I've been in business for 30 years, and I hire young people. I know they'll stay with me maybe 2 or 3 years, but I train them. I train them for public service. I train them to give back. We got to do our work, but we always try to do work that Ron Brown always used to say, you can do good and you can do well at the same time. So we try to do good work. But it's, you know, it's something that I'm very conscious about, and I want to pay it forward because I've had so many people in my life that have helped me get to where I am. So, I mean, I'm constantly mentoring young people.
I was born standing on the shoulders of many who fought for civil rights and equal justice under the law. I didn't wait until I turned 18 to do anything. You know, I almost said I didn't wait till I turned 18 to drink, but to vote. To vote. The problem with taking me to the 42 bar before I come upstairs. I look at everybody else having a good time and say, don't worry, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. When will it get 5 o'clock in Little Rock? I stood on so many great shoulders. I knew as a little girl growing up in the segregated South, parents who struggled each and every day to make ends meet for my 8 siblings. There are 9 of us. I'm the third of 9. I wanted to give back from the earliest. The day that Dr. King was murdered 50 years ago this April was that moment that I felt the call. And when I told my mom what I wanted to be when I grew up, she looked at me and laughed. And she said, no, girl, you're going to have to get a job. Well, Lottie knows I've tried to maintain and keep jobs. And you know what? I'm living proof that when you fall down, you can get back up if you have the will to keep going. But you know what keeps me going? My kids. I never gave physical birth. God knows. I'm not afraid of going through 9 months, although that was never what I wanted to do. So I had kids the other way. I just took them on. I've taken on so many kids that I can't even remember their last names anymore. But the truth is that I'm blessed, like many of you, to have been able to say that Shirley Chisholm was my mentor. Bella Abzug, Barbara Jordan, Coretta Scott King. I am blessed that I can go to my grave knowing that every woman that ever walked out of their home in Louisiana and wanted to run statewide called me if it was my time to run their campaigns. And they're still my friends. And I'm blessed to have been able to bring more kids, more people of color into the political process. If you want to get involved, I will help you. Minyon will help you. Leah will help you. Yolanda will help you. We might not pay you. We might make you move to another state, right? But we love you. And we believe in justice and equality for all. And I am grateful to one person that I think we have a thread with all of us, is that Jesse Jackson. Jesse gave us a seat at the table. And once we took our seats in the '84 campaign, we haven't really wanted to give it back. And now, come January 3rd, I'm cutting my vacation short just to see the most historic Congress ever in the United States of America.
Ma'am.
A lot of our kids are taking the oath of office. A lot of them will now carry on Shirley Chisholm's legacy and Bella Abzug's legacy. And maybe before 2020, we will see some progress that will enable us to finally see a woman take that White House, because it was denied before.
Ladies, you talk a lot in the book about the Bank of Justice. How many of you guys have actually read the book? Raise your hand. Okay, so a lot of folks don't know what that is. So we're looking for who wants to talk about the Bank of Justice.
I wish Carol Willis was here. He was a charter member.
Mm-hmm, yes. Well, the fabulous Joyce Willis is here, and she knows all about the Bank of Justice.
Charter member.
Yep.
And in fact, I tell you, speaking of Carol, he was not only a charter member, he was a member that pushed you to make sure, because the Bank of Justice was developed, it actually started at a convention, because we knew that the people that work the hardest are usually the people that can't enjoy the conventions and enjoy the spoils. So we would have people like Carol and Bob and others, especially if we were in position to help, come to us and say, listen, these people need to be taken care of. And so when Leah became, and this was pre-Leah, but when she became CEO, it became Bank of Justice on steroids. because you know what? You know, Bill Clinton was not in office, but he had lots of his people still coming to the conventions. You know, Hillary wasn't in office. She had lots of people coming to conventions. Reverend Jackson, you know, all the people that we had mentored around the country were coming to conventions. But it wasn't just about conventions, but that was one part of it. But it was also about when you have a seat at the table and you look around that table and you see some parts missing, and you know that we should have more people, and you're afraid to say, hey, listen, we need to open up this process. We need to make sure that we have a office that looks like what we want to be reflective of. You know, that's why we're so grateful we had a Bob Nash in the White House, because he just didn't see black people. He saw people that would be of our value system. They could be white, but he knew that they would have good value systems when they held those positions, and they would also make sure that their departments looked like America. And so that was another thread that we tried to run through our veins. Don't just sit at the table and occupy a table and have a voice. Be at that table knowing that you're making a difference, knowing that you're swinging the door wide open for someone else to come through it. And that's what we continue to do every day.
I want to tell a story.
Please, yes.
I want to tell a story about the first time Leah ran a convention in 2008. I went to her and I said, I want to do something. You know, you don't have to pay me, just figure out something for me to do, because I just want to be supportive and helpful to you. And she said, okay, I got a perfect thing for you to do. I want you to manage podium operations and backstage. And I said, well, you know, I've done a lot of things, but I've never done that. And she said, it's okay, we got a memo. It's not rocket science. So this is an operation, if for those of you who have followed conventions, it's always been one group of guys, no offense, but white guys, that pretty much took on all of this stuff and managed it and never brought anybody else along, didn't bring along any young people. So my job was to go in and break it up, which I did. And we brought in some of the older people, of course, because we needed them for continuity's sake. But we brought in so many young women, and these are people, to understand, the people who do these jobs are volunteers. So they have to have a job. They're lobbyists or somebody. So they've got to have a job, or they've got to have their own money to pay their way to come and stay at the convention. But they all want to do it. Everybody wants to be a part of it. So we put together a team of about 150 of the most diverse people you could ever find. I mean, there are young people, young women on the Hill, young black women, young white women who had never had a chance to do it before. We brought in some young black men, we brought in Hispanics, we brought in everybody. And we put together the most amazing team, and I've done this for the last 3 conventions. And it really totally opened up doors and gave people an opportunity to come in and learn something that they would have never had an opportunity to learn before. But this is what we mean by opening up the tent and the Bank of Justice and, you know, paying it forward.
Stephanie, Minyon, can I tell one story about the Bank of Justice? Y'all are like this. So, again, I'm going back. Before Obama, we had Bill Clinton. I'm telling people some history now. So, the thing I loved about my Clinton-Gore experience in my years and so forth is that Bill Clinton encouraged you to speak up. He didn't want you in the room to be a token. He didn't want you to be in the room to be somebody that said, oh, I'm the first black and I need to be by my... No, Bill wanted you to bring everybody else. Right. The reason why I always believed in Bill Clinton is because he believed that we could make a difference as we were all in the room. And I know so many stories. I'm going to tell you one. So in the after the 92 election, and I wanted to do the presidential opening ceremony. That's the thing. See, Bill Clinton would let you decide what you wanted to do. He didn't tell black women where to sit. He just said, what you want to do. And I want to do that, and I want to help with the parade. Well, the reason why I wanted to help with the parade, because I wanted Southern and Gramblin's band to be in the parade. Hey, right? And we got St. Augustine from, I'm Catholic. Okay, you got to do something for the church. But this was the best part about the Bank of Justice. And Yolanda was working with Rahm. I didn't want to mess with Rahm Emanuel. We got a history, okay? He got hot blood. I got Tabasco in mine, okay? And, it could be a little hot there. So one day, it was right before the big day, and Yolanda said something to Rahm, and somebody said something. They gave me a whole bunch of tickets. I said, I didn't ask for this many. So what did I do? I went to the Southeast Washington, D.C. I went to the poorest area of Washington, D.C. that never get to participate in anything. And I knew Bill Clinton would approve because I went to all of the high schools and junior high schools, and Bob, I gave tickets to them kids to come to the presidential inaugural and the parade, and guess what? That day when all America looked in the presidential box in the parade, it was all black. All them tickets went to all of the black people. Bill brought all his family. That's the Bank of Justice. That's the Bank of Justice.
Leah, do you have anything to say about the Bank of Justice? They covered it? Okay. Okay. All right, I want to turn to these famous or infamous dinners that you powerful ladies host for presidential candidates. This has become legendary, your dinners, that everybody who's anybody that thinks they have a chance, they come and they ask you all to have dinner with them and to sort of share some of your secrets. Tell us about those dinners, how they got started, maybe share some anecdotes about some of the most interesting ones, and then maybe tell me who you think you may be having dinner with in 2020.
So, when did we start it? 2008 start?
Tell everybody, because not everyone's read it. You got to tell them about these dinners.
08, wasn't it? Yeah, it was 08.
Yeah.
It was 08.
Tell them how you started.
So the 08 cycle, so we were getting calls, all of us, from various folks around town in Washington, mostly white guys, who were inviting us to dinners that they were having with the presidential candidates. And so...
Now, we love the white guys. Now,
We do.
Don't get us wrong.
We do.
You read our book, there's plenty of white guys in the book that mentored us.
No nicknames.
But we also have to
No
break up some
nicknames.
stuff
You
with
know
the
what-
white
you know
guys
what we
sometime.
mean.
You know that. Y'all understand. We love you.
So when you'd go to these dinners, they were, the usual suspects and talking about the usual issues and the issues that were of concern to us as women and as people of color were just never on the agenda. So we looked at each other and said, we should have our own dinners. So we decided that we would meet with the presidential candidates. And so we started having dinner with them. We knew them all. We just called them up and said, come have dinner with us. We may bring some other people. We have 3 rules. Come alone, no staff. And that was because we really wanted to hear them unfiltered, without a buffer or without assistance in their answers, 1. 2, no press. We don't talk about it in the media, and we did not.
No.
I didn't even leak
We
it.
never did. One of our
Didn't
dinner
leak it.
mates did.
Yeah.
One of our dinner mates.
One of our presidential candidates.
Chose to discuss it in the paper, and that was the person who became the nominee. Yes. And the 3rd rule was you pay.
Right.
Like that rule.
Yes. Yes.
You pay. So we had these dinners, and they were, we had them all in one at a time, and they were interesting. There were some surprises. We talk about them in detail in the book. But what we were really trying to do was create an opportunity, for us to talk with them, but then for them to talk to us and understand that the issues were broader than what they may be hearing in the mainstream from the normal consultant class, but also to introduce them to a new round of folks. So most of the dinners, we brought other women to participate, because we wanted them to know that if you're going around the country campaigning, these women are resources for you. And you shouldn't go to Arkansas if you're not talking to Lottie. You shouldn't go to South Carolina without talking to Marva. So these are women who can be resources, and as you're going around, you can call them and say, I'm headed to your state. Who do you know that I should meet with? So to bring other people and other voices into the process. So they were successful. We had fun. We write about them in the book, and 2020 is upon us, and the dinners have started already.
But when you read about the dinners, you will notice that there are certain questions that were asked of the potential nominees or potential candidates, and Donna would normally start off by asking them what was their 2053 strategy or whatever the delegate number was. And if they looked like they didn't understand that, we'd like, we might need to get the check. Check! Because that's kind of basic. And then Tina, who you all probably know, who is not here, who is our other colored girl, she would always ask about labor. And then we had a few people that asked about race, and you'll find in the book, we'll leave this for you to look at. We asked President Obama about how was he going to deal with race, and he had a very interesting answer. We asked Hillary how was she going to deal with sexism. She had a pretty traditional answer, but she had certainly thought it out. And so those dinners gave us a glimpse into their thinking. And I know the one thing we all walked away with President Obama was that either it was his time and he knew it, and we had to catch up to him, because that dinner would have never projected that for us. And so, it goes to show you that sometimes you got to know yourself, and he certainly came out of there,
Anybody break any of the rules you talked about? Did anybody bring a staffer?
Vilsack brought his wife.
Yeah. Christy.
Obama brought a staffer.
Yeah,
Anyone ever try to make y'all pay?
No.
Oh, okay, good.
No.
Okay.
Because we didn't want to be so out.
I could tell you, we had so much fun with Chris Dodd.
I bet.
And of course, Hillary turned it out because, she was like,
Oh, yeah.
You know what was fascinating, though? And it's in the book. What was really fascinating is here you are sitting with a group of, because we had to expand hers and President Obama's. You're sitting with a group of about 15, 20 African-American women. So we get in the room with her thinking that we're going to have to maybe do some extra introductions. First of all, she knew everybody in the room who knew. But she also had this level of familiarity that caused her to just sit down, have her cocktail, and just get straight down to business. And I think by the time we walked out of that room, it was so many of us that just said, Jesus Christ, she's just head and shoulders above everybody. When we went to Senator Obama's dinner, it was fascinating because he, I don't know if it was, and Leah describes it really beautifully in the book, male bravado. She likened it to her brothers. She knows what that's like. And I don't know if it was because we were all African American that we were kind of taken back a little bit, because he certainly is smart enough. But I think when he left the room, he was like, ooh, this is probably not the right crowd to be taken advantage of, because, and it was just a lesson, and to me it was just a lesson learned about how we deal with race with our own people, because it was a room full of women that was clearly seasoned and had been in this process a very long time.
Well, and he didn't know his audience. He didn't know there were women
your
that
audience.
existed like this.
Well, she just decided to say it. I was trying to be diplomatic.
I'm not on
Truth
the
don't
DNC
care
anymore.
who tells it. That's what I hear from your girl Tina all the time. Truth don't care who tells it.
Truth don't
Don't
care who
care who
tell
tell
it.
it.
So I want to, we discussed this in the book. You know how I got to meet Barack Obama?
Oh, now she's going to go there.
I think it's important. In light of what we are now learning about the disinformation campaign and the weaponization of our social media platforms in the 2016 campaign, I think it's important, and I think it's mandatory that we help tell Hillary Clinton's story, because she was scarred beyond recognition, in my judgment. And though she still won the majority of votes, there's no question that the 78,700 plus votes that so-called gave Donald Trump the, is this nonpartisan? Gave Donald, well, hell, we're in the presidential library, Clinton, so I can't do that nonpartisan. But that gave him the advantage of the Electoral College, there's no question. And I will go down to my grave and know that something went wrong in 2016. So the point I'm making, because they know I often forget my point.
Yeah.
Bring
She's
it back,
coming
bring it back.
to the original
Hold
point.
on. Here's the original point, is that Hillary and her infinite wisdom called Minyon and said, why don't you and Donna sit down with this young man trying to become United States Senator? When Minyon called me so I can come down to the 3rd floor to meet Barack Obama, I said, who? She was from Illinois, she knew more. But I tell that story because in 2016, when I was trying to tell you, would not have had your first black president in 8 years had it not been for this woman who decided that she had to promote him, push him, and encourage women like us to back him to become United States Senator in the first place.
Yep. Thank you.
So that had to be told.
Thank you.
Well,
Truth don't
let me
care who
just
tells
add
it.
on to that. Let me add on to that.
Okay.
So when John Kerry was the nominee,
Wow.
Thank you.
and he was putting together his convention speaker thing, he wanted someone, he had the Congressional Black Caucus, he wanted someone new and up and coming to be a speaker. So he asked, and we recommended, there's this senator, young guy from Illinois, Barack Obama. And he said,
Alexis
who?
Herman. Yes.
So that was in 04. That was in 04. So Barack Obama became speaker. I was sitting on the podium, and all I knew, I had met him. I was like, okay, yeah, okay, fine. We're going to let him speak. He was running for Senate then. And I was sitting on the podium, and he started speaking, and I was doing, what were we using back then? Blackberries.
Blackberries.
I was black, and I was like, this is my break, because, there's so many speakers. And he was like, okay, this is the new thing. Here goes another one. And he started speaking, and I was not paying attention, because he was just some guy running for speaker that John Kerry needed a name, needed someone to be a hot speaker. So he was speaking, and then halfway through, I was like, wait a minute. I said, who is this? And I'm going through my script going, oh, that's Barack. Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
And by that time, he was at the red state, blue state, purple state thing. He was in his preaching thing, and I was like, oh, let me get a handkerchief.
Too.
He up here about to have church.
Get your fan.
See, and
That's how he got to be the speaker.
And that
at the
was the
convention.
spring of, we met him in this, Minyon through Hillary. That was the spring of, that was 2003. And then we talked to Alexis Herman and Bill Lynch.
Yep.
And we got to John Kerry. So, yes, I just see, I'm keeping the Clintons' black card.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Skip, do we have time for a few questions, you think? Okay. Raise your hands and I'll call on you. And please wait for the microphone.
Well, while we talking about the Clinton's black card,
Yes,
can I
ma'am.
tell my convention story?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. We'll be coming right back to you right here in the middle.
2016 was the Philadelphia convention, and it was the next to last night of the convention, and I was having a rough time that night with some of the peeps. I'm sitting in my office. I went in my office to have a quiet moment to, get myself together before I had to go back on the floor. And my phone rings. And it's Tina. She said, where are you? I said, I'm in my office. She said, how's it going? I said, girl. She said, hold on. Pass the phone over. And the president comes on the phone, Bill Clinton. He said, Leah? I said, yes, Mr. President. He said, how you doing? I said, I said, man, Mr. President, these white boys are killing me. And he said, makes me shame to be a white boy. And I said, Mr. President, if all the white boys were like you, I wouldn't be having this problem. Can you give some lessons? And he was just, I don't know how he knew to call, but in that moment, he just knew. And he said, it's going to be fine. Just ignore them. Keep doing. This is the best convention I've ever seen. You're doing a fantastic job. Just keep moving forward. And he talked, you know Bill Clinton, he talked for about 10 minutes. 15 minutes, I finally said, Mr. President, I have to go back to the podium. But he just, in that moment, in that way that he
What you
had,
needed, right.
it was exactly on time and what I needed. And he said all the right things like he always does. And then I went back to the podium and I slayed some dragons with him.
Yes, ma'am, she did. Let me tell you.
Amen, amen.
Yes, ma'am.
And we're not going to ever forget that Bill Clinton gave Eleanor Holmes Norton, a non-voting delegate to Congress. I want you all to hear this one, too. A non-voting delegate to Congress, he gave her senatorial courtesy, which allowed her to recommend not only federal judges, but the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, and that person was Eric Holder. So put that
Thank
one
you.
in the
Put
history
that.
books.
Put it in there. Yep.
I know the stories. I ain't that old. Yolanda told her age. I ain't gave you mine yet.
And you had a birthday. You just had a birthday. Was
Yeah,
it your
but
40th?
I'm turning back the clock.
You're turning back. Okay.
I want to be a millennial when I grow up, so I'm going to be 29 for the second time.
Okay, sir, we'll bring a mic to you here. You had your hand raised first, I believe, and here we come. Wait for the mic so everybody can hear your question.
Oh, we know
Zach.
you. Uh-huh. Yeah, you can't go that far from us.
Y'all, this has been so much fun.
Thanks.
So this question may be a downer, but Donna, you've been a leader for like decades in election protection and the fight against voter suppression, and it's kind of a growth industry right now. So I just wonder, what's your colored girl's perception on election protection and voter suppression?
Since 2010, 28 states, they have essentially decimated the Voting Rights Act. And since 2013 in Shelby v. Holder, we have no more voting rights protection at the federal law, because when you got the pre-clearance portion, you really got the law. So we need a 21st century Voting Rights Act that is not based on states' rights. And it has to include everything from access to the ballot to making voter registration more accessible. Many of our states are doing that already, but we also know that every time we take 2 steps forward on voting rights, we take 3 steps backwards. Even in Florida, where they just gave us the Amendment 4 that enfranchised now 1.4 million citizens who can now have their voting rights restored, they're now even slowing that process and looking for statutory and regulatory ways to deny people the right to vote. Voting is the lifeblood of our democracy, and if we don't protect the right to vote, then there are no other rights under our democracy. Because if people cannot, in a representative government, choose who the people are, who the representative, who we hire, then there's no democracy. I am passionate about this issue, and we have to do more.
Yes, ma'am, right back here.
Hi, my name is Yolanda Michelle. I just ran a race here in Little Rock for the first time. I'm a mom, community leader, as well as a stage 4 cancer survivor. I have students here from Dunbar Magnet Middle School on this side of the room
Yay!
and over there.
Wow, let's have those students stand up. Stand up if you're
Stand up.
one of her
And
students.
we have some over there too.
Stand up.
And one of our students have questions, but real quick, how do young women such as myself, never did politics until this year and almost won, how do we find a mentor, especially a Black woman mentor, to help you through this process?
First of all, you probably can look around this room and find so many mentors. I think the first thing you have to do is start looking at your local campaigns and trying to figure out, okay, if that's a place you can go and really, find people that look like you, that feel like you. There are lots of organizations. I mean, I'm sure Lottie and others can offer probably more tangible advice. But most of the time when you're looking for a mentor, it really is within you. You are your best mentor. If you have the desire and the passion and the will to really get out there, I mean, you brought students tonight.
Thank you.
So that automatically tells me that you are not, you're beyond being mentored, you are now mentoring. And now you got to figure out where you plug these young women into the process. And we try to say every time we're on the road, please let them volunteer. Parents, talk to your kids about voting. I try to say every time I open my mouth, voting is not an event. It is a lifestyle. It changes their lives. And I think the more they hear about voting, the more they see it. And I think you become the mentor that you think you are looking for. Now, we will all mentor people. So, you can find us anywhere. Unfortunately, we're easy to still find because we're still in public service. But if you want to have like a little bit more concrete, please feel free to call us. But I think,
Call us at the Clinton Center as well,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, because everybody in this place is probably political on some level. Now, Yolanda says it best. Your mentor might not always look like you. And we are not, you read our book, we have been mentored by white men. We have been mentored by white women. We have certainly been mentored by incredible African-American women. And so we had our arms and our heart open to whoever we thought could give us the knowledge that we wanted. So just make sure that you know that it could be somebody that doesn't look like you that could give you the knowledge you want and help you go through that path. You're welcome.
Thank you. Do any of your students have a question? Oh, great.
I'd like to thank all of you for writing this book. Even though it's for all girls, it really touches the heart and minds of Black girls. Because although it's 2018, Black girls are being brought down like no other time. And we all know loud does not mean problematic, nasty, and dirty. Nappy does not mean nasty and dirty. And I wrote a poem. Well, it's not finished, but it starts off like this. If no one listened to a Black woman's cry when she was being beaten and hung, who is going to listen to it when it's being written and sung?
Wow.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
So I want to say to the sister, to young sister, tell me your name. Sarah? Okay, Sarah. Thank you for your comments and your question. And this is not a culture that honors everyday Black women. In ways large and small, we are dismissed, we're demeaned, we're diminished. In the narrative, in the images, it's tough, but it is possible to survive and to thrive. And so look to the sister who brought you here as an example. And it's one of the reasons we created Power Rising. It is a conference, a gathering place by, for, and about Black women. We had one in Atlanta. The next one is coming February 21 to 24 in New Orleans. And it is where Black women gather, Black women and girls gather to talk about the issues that are a concern to us. And I promise you will get your entire life. So we invite you to come. You can go to our website, powerrising.org. We're having a special track this season, this next year, for teens. And so, sister, I want you to bring your students. It's very low price on purpose. Last year, we just felt this press in our spirit last year. After the election, we went to a retreat of the Congressional Black Caucus women. And as we talked about the aftermath of the 2016 election, Auntie Maxine said, what should we do now, Leah? And I said,
Leah waved a magic wand,
said,
and I finally bought her a wand.
She
Said,
want me
quit
a
waving
wand."
these wands.
I said, if I had a magic wand, I'd convene Black women to talk about what we do next, what we do with our political power, what we do with our economic power. And so we created Power Rising. And on very short notice, 3 months, we had 1,000 Black women from 35 states that showed up to be empowered, to talk with each other, learn from each other, grow with each other in a place where there are no masks, where there's no pretending, where we fat, we thin, we fluffy, we light, we dark. There's no VIPs, there's PhDs, no Ds, you name it, we're there. So I invite you to come. All of the sisters, we invite you to come.
We have some
And if you can't come,
scholarships,
sponsor
too.
somebody.
Yes.
Sponsor somebody,
We have
but it's the
scholarships.
place you need to be to help you hone the confidence that you already have.
Yeah.
Y'all need to do one of these in Little Rock. When is that
We
going to
will.
happen?
Next year.
Next
Year.
Maybe next year.
Bring them to the center.
You heard it here, folks. Next year. I'll be writing
Yeah.
that down.
Yeah,
Skip.
that's a good idea.
Next year. Lottie.
You'll love it.
Lottie has the floor now.
Oh, the
Lottie.
mayor is here.
Yes.
If you give us permission, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Yes, we'll come.
The last question goes to the illustrious Lottie Shackelford.
Oh, she was standing
Here,
up.
bring her. Yeah.
Oh, no, we can't. We can't. Yeah.
Or comments?
Oh,
Yes. Lottie, you have the floor.
well, thank you. And I just want to say, needless to say, you all know I know these young women. I do have a question, but I also want to echo that they truly are true to what they say. And I never worked with a more dedicated and committed group throughout. You know, Minyon, you could never get her to get away to get something to eat.
I know.
Even, you know, so
That doesn't look true.
talking
But
about,
anyway.
well, but I mean, you know, you'd be waiting on Minyon, but Stephanie, you know, you'd wait on her for hours trying to get away. And but I just wanted to commend them for not only thinking it and doing it, but then being willing to share. And I've said to some of you, as I read the book, and I just remembered so many instances and so many stories, and for each of you, I have different ones. But what I would like for you all to share, one of the things I know about you all, you wake up every day knowing that it's going to be a learning experience. So while you talked about how you got into this whole business of the book and now the book tour, can you share with us something from this book tour that you all have had the opportunity to do that now gives you even more ammunition to be able to share and impart with particularly the younger folk that are coming along?
You know, Lottie, that question is, actually it almost penetrated me because it has been something that I think about after we end every session. And the one thing that has really, really stood out to me is that there's probably a moral leadership vacuum, but there's certainly a leadership vacuum in the country right now. And it's especially for our young people. They are desperate to get involved. They want to serve. They're not asking for titles. They want to be mentored. And they just need somebody to swing the door open for them. And so, you know, I tell you, if I could wave a magic wand, I would say to everyone in this room, each one teach one. Because we need to get people back involved in this great citizenship of ours. Because they're too disconnected. And they really, really want to be involved. And that's the thing that I have taken away. Beautiful questions with the young people. You know, it doesn't matter whether they're black, white, old, or indifferent. They want to get involved in the country's process. And they certainly, the hunger is even greater now. And I think we need to capture that while we can.
Well, thank you. In response to Lottie's question, and let me tell you, I have worked in politics for 50 years. I started early. Y'all got the message? One of the hardest, you know, we all feel shoes, big shoes, little shoes, boots and tennis shoes, and sometimes slippers. But Lottie had some big shoes to fill when I became vice chair of the Democratic National Committee, because she's a woman of action and a woman of valor, and she's also been in many of battles within the Democratic Party that we love so much. And you know why we love this party? It's because we have seen this party transform our country. And the one thing that I want to say about this entire experience, and this is the third book endeavor, the first with other people. It's been hard adjusting to 3 other people.
It's been an adjustment on the ego.
It is not an ego thing. I'm not used to sharing the mic.
She's not used to sharing the limelight.
I ain't worried about the light. I'm worried about the mic. And
same thing.
No, it's not. By the way, I have a SAG-AFTRA card. I've appeared on The Good Wife, The House of Cards.
We just came from Hollywood. We thought we were going to have to leave her out there because she was auditioning at every book tour.
Absolutely. I want to have my best life too, Oprah. And who knows what I'm going to become. I don't know if I'm going to become more of me, more of you, or more of something else. I've been reading that book too. Now,
back to the question.
You answering the question?
See what they do to me?
We just try to help you.
Yeah.
What
There
was
was
the
a question. We just trying to
What
help you.
have you seen on
Despite
this tour.
let me just see what they do to me. Okay. Despite the title of our book, the one thing that I leave this book tour with, and I think I leave this in my heart, Lottie, is that civility is not dead. We can still find a path to racial reconciliation despite all of the nastiness, despite all of the times they have tried to divide good people in this world. We are still one people. When I look around this audience, what I see tonight is something I feel in my heart. I feel hope. I feel it. And that's what my closing thoughts about this book tour. I'm still not inviting them over to my house. I don't understand this feng shui. We don't do that in New Orleans. We got boubatoirs. But whatever they did, I haven't moved it. I'm scared.
Because you never know when we might just ring the doorbell.
Yes, ma'am.
For me, the thing that I take away from the book tour is I have loved the conversations and the questions from the younger generation. But I've loved the conversations and the questions from those of us who are a little more seasoned, who are trying to navigate our way through this time that we're living in, which is unlike anything that we've seen before. There was a study that came out a couple weeks ago that shocked me, that said by 2024, people age 55 and older will be the majority of the workforce. That's just 5 years, would be the majority of the workforce. And we've spent a lot of time, rightly so, on those who are coming up. But those of us who are on the other end of the spectrum still have a role to play. And I think we, as to Donna's point, we have to, for the young people, provide the example that in their young life they have never seen what it's like to have a civil government, what it's like to have a government that represents the people, that represents the people's interest. They haven't, my nephews are 14 years old, they've never seen it. In their conscious life, they had Barack Obama, but they weren't really paying attention. And now they're like, is this what the president is supposed to do and be and act like? Is this what our discourse is supposed to be? We have, those of us who remember have an obligation to provide an example to those who are coming up and to be an example to each other of what civility is. And I often say, we have to make these decisions about who we're going to be in this time. Civility is a decision. Decide to be civil. Confidence is a decision. Decide. Right. The way we treat each other, it's a decision we make every single day. What we're going to post, what we're going to tweet, how we're going to talk to the person in the restaurant, how we're going to deal with the wait staff, how we're going to deal with our teachers. It's a decision that we make individually every single day. Thank you. And we can decide that we're going to treat each other better, that we're going to treat the people we don't know better, that we're going to be the best that we can be, and in that way provide an example for each other, but provide an example for our future. We can change the dynamic if we decide that that's what we're going to do.
Yo.
Stop right there. I think that's perfect. Last point.
Miss Abrams, I will amend and have one more question, because this lady right here,
Yes.
she's somebody. She's
Yes,
something.
she is.
Miss Abrams.
You young folks,
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm 87.
That's young.
In this book, I didn't find something that I need help with. Unity and color, those two words have a deep meaning to me. What do you know to help me bring into the Hispanics that I can't speak no Spanish, and the Native American, because they come in all colors. And also, I know you had a color line too. Blondes, they like blondes more than they did brunettes. So color been around a long time. But I didn't find no help for me as to how I can bring the unity of other people of color, Indians, Native American Indians, plenty of them still here, and Hispanic, who they say will be the majority. I want to be able to talk to them. That's my question. I didn't find nothing in here, but I know some of y'all have thought about it, and if not, we'll all go find the answer.
What's her name, Miss Brown?
Go ahead.
Is it Miss Brown?
Miss Abrams.
Miss Abrams? Well, thank you for your question, and thank you for buying the book, and thank you, because I believe that you probably have, more than we will ever know. So, but thank you for asking us a question like we know. I appreciate that. But I will say this, the intent of the book was not to really focus on color as much as it was to focus on the value system. And you just raised a values question in my judgment. How do we look at each other as partners and allies in this process? And how do we bring each other to the table? And I can tell you from our perspective, there was never a point in our lives where we could go into a room and just see ourselves. Unfortunately, we just didn't have that luxury. We always had to figure out who was not at the table. And so we just majored in that. I mean, whether it was Hispanics, whether it was Asians, many of us have been the first to bring them into the party. When the LGBT community, when we weren't even taking money from the gay and lesbian community, we demanded it. So I would say that, if there is some leading Hispanics, oh God, I just think that's such a beautiful question. Would somebody stand up with Miss Abrams and make sure that she becomes allies with these communities? Because she probably can teach us how we can all live and coexist together. I'm looking at an Asian woman right here. I'm looking at a Hispanic woman. They're all in this room, and we should all be working together. But see, this is the beauty of a Bill Clinton, too. Because this room is so Bill Clinton. Everybody from every walk of life. And so hopefully, we can just figure out how to build that coalition right here in this room with you tonight, because I think it's such a beautiful question.
Thank you. And I love a line from Bill Clinton that he always says is our common humanity matters more than our interesting differences. And we need to embrace that. And as you said, he is the master of embracing, finding the good in someone, not just looking for what we differ on. What do we have in common? So I am so grateful, and I know everyone is here tonight for that you all made the trip to come to Little Rock.
Yeah, thank you,
Would
Little
you
Rock.
please join me in thanking
Thank you, Clinton Center.
these illustrious women
My
and
man
a little
Bob.
housekeeping. Thank you. If you will allow me to escort these ladies off the stage, they're going to go set up out here to sign books. If you haven't bought a book yet, I believe there's still some available. Somebody give me the hook if that's not true. But I'm going to, if you'll stay in your seats, let me take our panel, our wonderful panel out here to get set up, and then you all can come out and get your book signed. Thank you again, ladies. All right.